What's going on, everyone? It's DK with RPM Gaming, and today we're talking about the Miyoo Mini. So say hello to my little friend. This little guy can fit in the palm of your hand and play pretty much everything all the way up to PS1. So let's get started. Aside from the shipping box, this is how the Miyoo Mini V4 comes packaged. We've got a nice semi-hard shell case from Miyoo, and the zipper handle is an NES style controller symbol. They aren't producing these anymore, but as of filming this video, you can still order these on Amazon or the Miyoo site itself. Inside we've got a USB-A to USB-C charging cable, our micro SD to USB-A adapter, a screen protector, our instruction manual, and of course our Miyoo Mini V4. And I went with the retro gray model. For our face buttons on the Miyoo Mini, we've got that BAYX Nintendo style layout, and these are a rubber membrane connection with a nice glossy finish. And over here we've got an SNES style D-pad. Right here is our menu button, and we've got our start and select with a single speaker on the front here. Around on the bottom we've got a 3.5mm headphone jack, our micro SD card slot, and our USB-C charging port. And over here on the left side we've got our volume wheel. Up top we've got our power button with the LED indicators. And around back we've got our R and R2, L and L2 buttons, and these are a micro switch style connection. And then inside here we've got our 3.7 2000 milliamp hour battery. The Miyoo Mini has a 2.8-inch IPS display, and as the name suggests, it is mini. Here it is in comparison next to the RP Classic, and while the face buttons and D-pad are relatively the same size, everything else is a little bit smaller. But this is still surprisingly comfortable to hold in the hands. And the buttons on the back here, the R2 and L2 buttons set out just a little bit further than the other ones, so you don't have to guess on which ones you're going to hit. When you slide your finger across, you'll feel that raised up a little bit right there. When purchasing the Miyoo Mini, you can order it with a game card or without. I suggest ordering without and just getting your own. Here we've got a 128 gig card, and we've got it loaded with Onion OS. You'll have the Miyoo Mini symbol when it comes on, and then it will load straight into Onion OS, which is a pretty simple, straightforward launcher. The Miyoo Mini can play all the way up to PS1. And for this tiny little speaker, it gets pretty loud. Here's max volume. And after you've launched a couple of games, you can use this menu button right here in order to switch back and forth quickly between the games by double tapping it. Here we've got Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, and if we double tap it again, it'll switch us over to Street Fighter Alpha 3. Pretty seamless. And like I mentioned before, this is actually pretty comfortable to hold in the hands. The D-pad and face buttons work really well for hitting those special moves too. Double tap, and you're back into the other game. The buttons are relatively quiet on the Miyoo Mini too. Then for a quick save feature, you can just hold down the power button and it will save your game and then power down. And when you have it in this state, the battery never moves. You can leave it here for literally about a month and the battery will stay the same way. Power it back on and you'll be right back into your game. Now if you just tap it, it doesn't put it in sleep mode or anything, it just turns the screen off. And you can still hear a noise coming from a speaker right here. Kind of like a little fan, but I don't think this has any active cooling on it. But this will drain the battery this way. And then to exit out of your game, you can just tap that button and then hit B to exit. Inside the apps section, you can scroll down to Package Manager, and in here you can turn off any of the consoles that you don't want on. You can also go into your RetroArch settings here and make changes there as well. This tiny screen may not be that good for PS1 games, but for Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color games, I think it works really well. Here we are with a little Donkey Kong Country. There are handhelds with bigger screens and nicer screens especially, but for something this tiny that can hold this many games and you can just toss in your pocket, I think this is pretty awesome. Just power it down, toss it in your pocket, and you're good to go. And then when you've got a few seconds, power on, and then you're right back in the game. The Miyoo Mini is literally small enough to fit in the palm of your hand. And when it comes to those classic RPG and strategy games, this thing works awesome for playing them just one-handed, just like you're holding a phone or texting. If I had had one of these when I was a kid growing up, that held all my Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega, and PS1 games, I would have for sure thought I was operating in God mode. Alright everyone, so let me know what you thought about our little friend here, the Miyoo Mini. Personally, I think it's a whole lot of awesome wrapped up in a little tiny package. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out our other videos, and we'll see you next time on RPM Gaming.